So I'm currently shooting for other episodes, and I realized that I forgot to mention the alarm clock analogy when we were talking about extinction during the teaching versus enforcing phases. And here's the thing. You can create really solid habits, really good habits, get a dog or even in a human to make better choices and to start to do that. And if you get into a rhythm, you have a much better chance of staying in that rhythm, in that groove. But there are things that can throw that off. So for example, if we're dealing with an alarm clock, if I've trained myself, let's say over the last 20 years, where I always work a 7 to 4 job, and to get there at 7, I need to wake up at 5:30 in the morning every day, 6 days a week, because I work 6 days a week, let's say, right? If I get into a nice rhythm and a good routine of I always eat dinner by this time, and I always go to bed by this time, my last show is by this time, I work out at this time, if I'm truly organized, there's a good chance of me keeping those habits. But there are things that can throw that off, and that's what we would call a trigger. And there are things that can trigger old habits or bad habits, or at the least derail you from what you normally do and the system that you were kind of making habitual for yourself. From the human standpoint, that could be your best friend has his or her birthday party and you go out and you stay out way later. You normally go to bed by 9, but now you're out till 2 a.m. and you know you have to be up by 4. You also had a lot to drink. You know, there are so many different factors. And in this situation, it's one thing for you to know and be aware, I have to get up and this is better for me. But when you start to put yourself in a situation where you have these triggers, the uncontrolled environment, if you will, if it was for a dog, you're going to need something to enforce the rules when you're tempted or when a variable might change. So if we're looking at waking up early in the morning, that might mean, you know what, I've set my alarm clock every day for 5:30 a.m. for the last 20 years. I work 6 days a week. On my 7th day, when I don't set my alarm clock because I'm so habitual, I really don't need an alarm clock. I wake up at 5:30 every morning. And if you've gotten into a rhythm, you guys understand, some of you might be able to relate, that's kind of automatic, right? Does this mean that you never need the alarm clock again? Because if you never need the alarm clock again, you've already been taught what to do. You know how to do it. Do you need that enforcer? Eventually, what happens is it ends up being 5:35, habits start to slip, 6 o'clock, 6:05, 6:10, before you know it, you need that enforcer. Dogs are going to be in situations where our goal is to prepare, and our goal is to prepare them in a way where they make better choices. They know how to do it. They enjoy doing that. But if we're not preparing ourselves, and I mentioned this before, for the moments where we have to enforce and we don't understand how to do those things, if we're living in this world imagining that just because our dog knows what the right thing is to do, that they're always going to do it, you're going to find yourself in a really, really rough spot. Now, if we're looking at it for a dog, you can have a dog that starts making better choices. He sees something he's uncomfortable with, he starts to move away. She sees that squirrel, she starts to do that. But the moment the trigger presents itself, maybe they're a little bit closer to the squirrel this time. Maybe instead of walking away, the dog sprung up behind them, and that's something that the dog's been walking away before it got to that point. When the trigger presents itself, the dog's gonna need more help. The dog's gonna need us to enforce and remind and sponsor. And when the dog is thinking about using again, just like a recovering addict, a recovering alcoholic, they go, the sponsor, no, that's not a good idea. No, that's not a good idea. You're right. And we can help by enforcing the rule. Really, really important. Something to think about. So I just wanted to add that.